Say it a couple times.
Good morning. The meeting will come to order. First off, I want to thank the Elks for allowing us to meet in this facility. And thanks to all of our members, our guests, and speakers for joining us this morning. I'm Mary P. Cars, and I'm the Vice President of the Association, and I want to introduce you to the other board members. Our Secretary, Carolyn Gorski-Thurluman. Our Treasurer, Jen Keene. George Lee, who's our membership chair, is probably out in the front there. Greg Bowie, our newsletter chair, is also out there. And Hilda Maroli, Larry Pasco, Jean Tierney, John Van Kuyen, Susan Connor, Barbara Reed, who set up our refreshments in the back, and TJ Keene, our administrator, is helping to keep everything moving smoothly. Our president, Helen Kinsman, and our director, another director, June Morris, were not able to be here today due to other obligations. Today we have a few guest speakers. Pat Ryder, who's the president of the Friends of the National Seashore. Brian Karlstrom, the superintendent of the National Seashore. Maggie Downey from Cape Cod Compact. And they also have materials in the back, so please stop by and take some materials. Jackie Beebe, our town administrator, is here this morning. We expect possibly the police chief will be here at Wilhawick, and a few others that Jackie will introduce. And they'll all provide updates on town matters. If you have any questions during the presentation, we ask that you flag down one of our board members who will give you an index card. Jot down your question, and they'll be collected and answered at the end. Okay, we'll move on. And first, Carolyn.
Thank you. Good morning. The minutes to the last membership meeting are in the packet that was given out at the door. And the meeting took place on August 18th, 2018, here at the Elks Lodge.
I can't hear you in the back row.
Okay.
You're just going to hold it really close.
Just hold it really close, okay. The minutes were prepared by David Baxter, the former secretary of our organization. So, is there a motion to approve the minutes from August 18, 2018?
Motion.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion? No? Okay. And all in favor, please raise your hands to approve the minutes to the meeting. Okay? And is there anybody opposed to the minutes to the meeting? No? Okay. Thank you very much. With the majority of hands raised, the motion is hereby approved. Thank you. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Keene. I am the treasurer of EPRTA. So this is just going to be a brief overview because in the August meeting we have to approve the budget and everything. But as of right now, as of July 4th, on our income statement that is on the board, we have our total income is about $16,700. Our expenses are mainly due to newsletters. We send out newsletters to anyone who doesn't choose electronic newsletters. We've also sent out amnesty letters for people who haven't been paying their dues, and we send out a marketing email to any new residents of Eastham to see if they want to join. So those are our primary expenses with our marketing and our postage and printing. We also have our administrator is one of our largest expenses. So right now we have a net income of $7,700. On our balance sheet right now, Since last year, we have an increase of about $2,100. We have about $56,000 in CDs in our checking account. So, does anyone have any questions? As I said, in August, we'll do a complete review of everything for our treasurer's report. Okay, thank you. Who's next? George Lee here. I think George. Gene, can you get George? George Lee is still currently out there checking people in, but he is our membership chair and will be here momentarily. Here he comes. Here he comes. Yeah, sorry. We're moving quick.
Hi, good morning. My name is George Lee. I'm the membership chair. I have greeted most of you a few minutes ago. Okay, our first slide shows that we currently have 1,388 members. 787, or 57%, had paid their dues before today's meeting. And 505 people had paid through 2018. I know from experience outside that quite a few of those 505 have actually paid this morning. And then we have 96 people who last paid in 2017. And if they do not renew their membership by the end of the season, they'll be dropped from a membership. Okay, here is the membership over the years. You can see we're a slight bit down from last year, but generally we run around 1,400 members. Pages are sticking together here. Okay, membership update. In the fall, we sent out 459 amnesty letters. They are sent to people who have not paid their current year dues. And we got 128 of those people to become up to date. In the spring, in May, we sent out 1,027 marketing letters to part-time Eastham residents who are not currently members. And so far, we've gotten 69 new members, and I know today we've gotten a few more. We have 180 members who removed last year, 166 of them for non-payment of dues. The others were because they are no longer taxpayers in Eastham. Okay, 36% of our members paid their 2019 dues using PayPal. We encourage everyone to pay your dues using PayPal. It makes it a lot easier for our treasurer and our administrator to process things, and it's quite easy. I'm sure many of you use PayPal for a number of other payments. You get a receipt immediately, and you're up to date. Okay, our membership up to date. We have bad email address summary. See, most of our members, we have a valid email. 29 people, we have a bad email. That means that we send an email to you and it gets rejected. And then there are 69 people who have not given us email. We encourage you to give us a valid email address. We do not sell it or use it for any other purpose than to try to keep you up to date with what's going on in Eastham. For instance, if we had a valid email for you, in the last day or so, you got a reminder that there was a meeting here this morning. As far as the newsletter is concerned, again, you have a choice of electronic or postal. You can see that at this point, we do have, I need my glasses for this one, 47 people who have not given us a preference for delivery of the newsletter, so by default they get it in the mail. Again, it's to your advantage to get it electronically. That way you can share it with friends and relatives very easily by just forwarding the email. Okay, are there any questions? Okay, then thank you, and glad that all of you could make it here today.
Greg Bowie.
Thanks, George. My name's Greg Bowie. I'm the newsletter chair, so very good segue into what George's talking about. So the newsletter is shown here as an example. We do 4 a year, one for each season. The spring was put out recently that we're working in progress on the summer. So TJ does a great job of getting it out to all you folks. As George says, it's both available electronically if you'd like, or we send it out by postal mail, snail mail. So the newsletter, like the summer one, will include notes from this meeting for members who couldn't attend today. They'll get a summary of what transpired here. So the newsletter is a really good way to keep you informed, and again, you can get it also in our website. You can get information. And George talked about if we get sometimes we don't have your proper email, we'll get pinged back. You'll actually see that if you get a postal version of the newsletter, because it has a mail, yes or no for mail, no mail, it'll say that, or bad mail. So then we're not getting your proper email. So you can contact us by email, and then that's the best way to do that. So it's memberservice@eprta.org. So if you memberservice@eprta.org, and we'll get your proper email. That's the best way to get your email. And appreciate everyone. This is your newsletter, so if you have information or something you like to include in newsletters, please use that email, let us know, and look forward to you'll have the summer out soon, and we'll look forward to that email coming to you by newsletter, either by email or postal. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Pat Reiner will speak next.
I'm Pat Ryder, and I'm president of the Friends of the Cape Cod National Seashore. The Friends of the Cape Cod National Seashore was established in 1987 as the nonprofit fundraising partner to the park to help preserve, protect, and enhance the fragile environment and unique cultural heritage of the park. We recently gave money for the repair of the Red Maple Swamp Trail in Eastham, and it's now fully open. We also gave money recently for the restoration of the Atlantic White Cedar Swamp Trail in Wellfleet. That's going to start this fall. And we've funded we're going to be funding a viewing platform at Old Harbor Life Saving Station. There's going to be in the boat room so people can see between the two surf boats. We funded the park share of the Shark Mitigation Alternatives Analysis by the Woods Hole Group. And we also sponsor summer programs and our winter movie series and the Cape Cod Symphony, as well as a lot of other things. We have volunteers who work with park staff. This is during the fall and winter and early spring season on a cut, pile, and burn crew. And they, to maintain vistas in the park and to rid areas of the invasive species. And our volunteers also maintain the trails in the park. They each have a trail that they maintain, that they walk periodically and take care of and report back to park staff. We have volunteers who greet people at all of our programs, and we have people volunteers who participate in Earth Day in the spring for a beach cleanup, and then in the fall for Public Lands Day for some project that the park deems necessary that day. So I wanted to, today I brought with me some information about the Friends, and it has our volunteer opportunities and who to contact. This is our brochure, and it has our membership information, more information about us. And be sure and take one of these. I brought quite a few of these. This is our the listing of the July and August summer programs that we help sponsor every Tuesday and Thursday at Salt Pond Visitor Center. Summer inside, summer at the amphitheater. And we also sponsor some programs at Herring Cove Beach. So, free visitors, something to do. They're at 7 o'clock on those evenings. So I think that probably a lot of you purchase property in Eastham because you love everything that the seashore has to offer. You love the beaches, you love the open space, and you love the trails. So I just want to let you know that if you love the seashore, join the Friends. And now, Brian Karlstrom, our Superintendent of the Cape Cod National Seashore.
Thank you, Beth. Good morning. I'm Brian Karlstrom, Superintendent of Cape Cod National Seashore. I washed ashore last April, and I'm proud to be here. I did wash ashore a little over a year ago, but I've been familiar with Cape Cod National Seashore since the early 90s. I was part of the general management planning team back then, working as a geographic information specialist and resource analyst for the Denver Service Center of the National Park Service. So that was my first interaction professionally, but personally it goes back further than that. My dad was doing some work at Harvard, and we came over in 1986, and the first place I went wasn't in Eastham, but I'm a bit of a science geek, and we went and saw the Marconi site. And that was very meaningful to me. And the history that story, that site tells is really telling both from a technological standpoint, but also from a coastal vulnerability standpoint. Because where I stood back in 1986 is about 80 feet up in the air over the Atlantic Ocean now. And we continue to build and develop our facilities and retreat and rebuild as a result of that. We're losing 3 to 40 or more feet of shoreline a year on average. It's 3 feet, but it can be much, much more than that. And one of the projects I'm going to focus on a little bit later is going to show just how dramatic that can be and how we're adapting to it. Pat, thank you so much for the remarks on the Friends of Cape Cod National Seashore. They help us to do so much more than what we can do on our own. And the programming that you mentioned is outstanding. It's everything from talks on geography to movie screenings to the Navy band. You can learn a lot more about the seashore going to a few of those. And they're fun, and they're free, and they're interactive. They're meant for all ages. Grab one of those green flyers on the way out and go check out a couple of them because they are free. So I'm going to get into my presentation this morning. I'm going to go over a few basics about the National Seashore, just so we're all on the same page. Then I'm going to talk about ocean safety and get specifically into some details about sharks. And projects in progress that we have going on with a special emphasis on Eastham. So next slide, please. AJ. That's what everybody comes here for. Enjoy the sun and the surf and the beach environment. How many of you have been out there already this year? For the rest of you that haven't, why not? Get out there, enjoy it. That's what it's for. It's yours to enjoy. I have the distinct pleasure of working with over 180 people to help keep it that way. Next slide, please. And this is our purpose. And I'm going to read this so that it's really emphasized. And that is, it's pretty multifaceted, but it covers and touches on everything we do. This is part of our foundation document that we released last June. And the purposes of Cape Cod National Seashore are to preserve the nationally significant and special cultural and natural features, distinctive patterns of human activity, and ambience that characterize the Outer Cape, along with the associated scenic, cultural, historic, scientific, and recreational values, and to provide opportunities for current and future generations to experience, enjoy, and understand these features and values. Next. So by the numbers, we've got about 180 people working through the summer. About 55 of us keep tabs on it the remainder of the year. There's a lot to keep track of. We do that in close coordination with over 600 volunteers that contribute over 40,000 hours of assistance annually. That is huge. How many of you have ever volunteered at the seashore? All right, the rest of you see Pat, we'll get you signed up. Our deferred maintenance is somewhere around 45 million. I say somewhere because it's a really hard number to keep tabs on. but we are continually working towards reducing that, and I'll show you some more on that later. Our annual operating budget to help everything that our 4.5 million visitors do and do to us and as resources is about $7.7 million a year. That's been very flat. And we get a variety of project hours annually, 3 to 8 million. And we do that all in very close cooperation with 6 highly enthusiastic towns, including Eastham. It's a pleasure to be here with Town Administrator Jackie Beebe this morning. Second time this week, we're in the same spot, which is great. Next slide, please. And I'm going to talk now for the next few minutes on ocean safety. And I want to emphasize ocean safety. It's a wild marine environment. The second you put your toe in that ocean or going where the breakers are, you're putting yourself at risk. That's just a fact. The lifeguards make hundreds of rescues and assists every summer. And most of those involve the nearshore break and the rip currents. We know that. We've got that documented. They also respond to a lot of medical events that happen in the ocean. And we experience fatalities every year, or just about every year, related to those rip currents and the medical events that occur in that nearshore environment. Now, what's changed over the last decade is we have gray seals coming in. They've largely responded to the Marine Mammal Protection Act and reestablished their numbers. And following close behind the gray seals are the white sharks. What's so unique about Cape Cod compared to other areas around the globe where sharks and recreation are occurring is the fact recreation patterns developed here in the absence of the sharks and seals being present. Well, they're back. We've been working very, very hard with the Shark Working Group, with all 6 towns and beyond that, with the county, with other towns along the Cape and the South Shore, to have a coordinated message to help better inform all the people that come to visit us. We can change people's behaviors, but we really can't change the seals and the sharks' behaviors. And we have to conform with the Marine Mammal Protection Act and the federal protections that are in place for the white sharks. So we fly the purple shark flags, and we've been doing that for years. We have emergency call boxes in place now. We have Stop the Bleed kits, and have done a lot of Stop the Bleed training in close coordination with the first responder community throughout the Cape. And we've got Shark Smart principles, and I've got a shark wrap card that you can grab. It's over with the Friends information. I'm going to just review those real quick. These are pretty widely known. But be aware that sharks hunt for seals in shallow water. Stay close to shore where rescuers can get to you. Swim, paddle, kayak, and surf in groups. Don't isolate yourself. Avoid areas where seals are present. Avoid areas where schools of fish are visible. Avoid murky or low visibility water. Limit your splashing. Follow all signage and warning flags at the beaches and the instructions of the lifeguards. And this is an easily consumable graphic that touches on everything I just mentioned. And you're going to start seeing this in more and more places all around the seashore. And we borrowed this from New South Wales and Australia. We had one of their government experts come and speak with the Shark Working Group earlier this year, and a graphic very similar to this is something she shared with us. And we thought, wow, that would be a really cool way to get the information out. It's easily consumable, so we work with the visual information specialist at the seashore, put this together, and we're sharing it with towns as well. Next. So what's happened since last year and before that is before you. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but the big takeaway from this slide is there's a whole lot of collaboration going on at the local, state, and federal level to be as prepared as possible and to have response capabilities in place to make a difference when a shark incident occurs. Last year we had a very serious incident in Truro on August 15th, and 1 month later, on September 15th, first fatality in over 80 years in Massachusetts occurred. Those 2 events have really changed how we are prepared to respond to any incident that occurs. After action indicated that, okay, we need to improve our communications and we need to improve our response capabilities on the beach. We've done that in a lot of different ways. And just on Monday of this past week, 6 town managers and myself got together and did a press conference on that very topic. A really good story on that is now available on Lower Cape TV. TV. It just came out this morning. Go to that website and check it out if you want to learn more. Next, please. These are the call boxes that are in place at all 6 of the National Seashore beaches. Many of the other 22 town-managed beaches up and down the seashore, both on the bay side and the ocean side, have boxes that are similar. Different technologies are used depending upon what existed at those beaches. They're a combination of hardline, cell, or satellite, depending upon what the signal strength was at any given beach. So they work very simply. You basically pick up the receiver, push the button, goes immediately to the emergency response network, tells them where you're at, and sends help on the way. Next. Purple shark flags, the rat card I just mentioned, the shark signs that have been up for many years are all part of how we're helping to inform the public. And this has worked. How do we know that? Our lifeguards aren't having to blow their whistles with nearly the frequency to tell people to come in. People are staying in the shallower areas because we've been doing this since 2012. Fortunately, we didn't have a serious incident or fatality since 2012, but Chief Ranger Leslie Reynolds started the Shark Working Group in cooperation with the Atlantic Red Shark Conservancy and a number of the other harbor masters and fire chiefs and police chiefs to start addressing this back in 2012. That's when the first shark incident occurred and a lifeguard was bumped. That's what motivated us to start looking at this with a lot more intensity. And we've been doing that, and we're going to continue doing that. Next slide, please. And this is what has changed this year. This is a very gotcha kind of graphic. They're at many of the beaches. It's intended to get your attention. And I've been out there, out of uniform. Let me let you in on the secret. I not only work at the seashore, I play in it a lot. And this sign gets everybody's attention. That's what it's intended to do. Now look a little closer at this sign. Yes, it's got a picture of a menacing shark. That's what they look like. Their attack behavior is really effective. They've been around for over 400 million years. There's a reason they've survived that long. When a shark attacks, it's attacking from below generally, but they're changing their patterns out here. We don't understand why or how. They're adapting. The bar graph in the lower left shows the relative presence of the sharks on the seashore. Those are the ones that have been tagged and that have been picked up on the sensors. We know how frequently they're coming in and along the Cape. They're most frequent going through the summer. It keeps ramping up until October, and then as the water temperature drops, the sharks go elsewhere. And the biggest message on this is to know your risk when entering the water. Cape Cod National Seashore is a unit of the National Park System. There's 419 units across all 50 states. There are large apex predators in many of those sites. Cape Cod is now one of those. And so we're informing the public about what their risk factors are. We'll continue to do that in many different ways, in cooperation with the state, in cooperation with the towns, and basing that on really sound science. We're working with, helping cooperate with Dr. Scommel, Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, the Commonwealth Marine Fisheries. And a new study is going on right now in the Bay to better understand the shark populations there. They're there. Some of the information you might see out there shows some gaps where it may look like there aren't any sharks. No, the sharks are there. There are not sensors in those locations. We know from reports from fishing captains, sharks are getting taken off, or sharks are taking bait and fish off the lines all over the bay. And around that area where there's a gap in sensors on the round part of the Cape up between Truro and on up to Provincetown. There just aren't sensors in those areas. Next slide, please. I'm going to stick around and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end, but I want to go through and change gears a little bit and give you an update on a bunch of projects that are happening along the seashore because we have a lot going on and a lot happening in Eastham. So next slide, please. If you haven't seen the new movie at the Visitor Center yet, go check it out. It's exceptionally good. And I say that because I've seen many of them across the Park Service, and some of ours are better than others, and this one is really, really good. So go take the time, go take the 10 minutes, check it out, play it several times an hour, It's brand new last summer, and it does an amazing job of giving you an overview, or your friends that come here to get acquainted with what the seashore is all about. Next slide, please. And we've revitalized the Province Lands Visitor Center. It's got new exhibits, the bookstore space is all new, and it really has exhibits that draw you into and bring you out to focus on the dune fields and the ocean beyond. Just a quick preview of it. It's worth the drive up there to check it out. Maybe not in the height of summer, but in the shoulder season, go check it out. Next, please. Here's a few examples of what we're doing. The Marconi site trail is now ADA compliant. It's a much better surface and a much better configuration for people to get up to the overlook area. The head of the Meadow Bike Trail is being resurfaced for the first time in its history. It's also being widened. And as Pat mentioned, the Atlantic White Cedar Swamp Trail, we're replacing a good section of the wooden boardwalk so that that can be in good shape for many years to come. We don't want it to fall into such a state of disrepair that we have to close it like we did with the Red Maple Swamp Trail for many years. So that's happening with a ton of support through the Friends of Cape Cod National Seashore. Next slide, please. Now this one is a real case study in shoreline erosion. Notice the slide on the top, notice the Jersey barrier in your upper left-hand corner. Look at the slide at the bottom. That's less than a year between those two slides, the two images being taken. You can see how much of the parking lot in your shore area literally washed away into the bay. Next slide, please. We've been working for over a decade to develop a design that would be sustainable to reestablish that 208 parking space area right on the shore with 5 improved access points, with a widened bicycle path that's clearly defined, with a new vault toilet, and with accessible parking spaces that have a gradual slope down to the beach, not the very steep drop off that was covered with asphalt. So this is what we've done with it. Next page, next slide. That's what it looks like today. All 208 spaces are new. We relocated Province Lands Road, 5 new access points, and the elevation of the parking lot is higher than it was before by about 5 feet. It's a very gradual dune in that area, but we're pretty confident it's going to last for at least 20 years. Some of the modeling shows up to 50. Next slide, please. And that's what it looked like in progress. Next. And this is what we did as far as restoration of the beach goes. We did a lot of enhancements with the dunes. We removed over 1,000 yards of asphalt that were the old revetments from the parking lot that had continued to wash into the bay. Removed 80 Jersey barriers that have been used out there over the years. And we planted over 600,000 beach grass plugs. It looks like an Iowa cornfield out there, but give it a couple of years and it'll look like a natural dune. And over 52,000 native beach plants are going to be planted. Some of those are in already. Second round of planting is going to happen this fall. Next slide. That's a few more close-ups of how we've finished up the project. And an event's going to be happening Monday at 8:30 in the morning with Congressman Keating to symbolically open up the parking area. It's been in use through most of this past week. Next. And Highland Light, it's open right now, but we're going to be doing a significant restoration of the light tower. When it was moved back in '96, all the ventilation for it was filled in so it would be more stable for the move, but it was never reestablished. So essentially we've had a closed masonry structure right on the seashore, exposed to all the environment without adequate ventilation. Not too good for the structure or anyone trying to do work in it or tour it. So we're going to reestablish that ventilation, repaint it, and basically make it close to new again. And that'll be happening over the course of this fall and into next year. So if you haven't been up in it in a while, you have a chance until this Labor Day weekend, and then it's going to be closed for over a year. Next slide, please. This is 19 different projects that has taken place in Eastham over the last decade, totaling, didn't show up too well at the bottom, but it's over $12 million of effort that has occurred here in Eastham over the last decade. So it just kind of gives you a quick smattering of what's been done. New parking lots at Fort Hill, Nauset Bicycle Path has been reconstructed. Salt Pond Visitor Center had exterior repairs that were just done this spring, and that was to the amphitheater. The entire exterior envelope of those 3 buildings that make up that complex have all been touched in the last 10 years. A lot of really good work has been happening in Eastham, and more is coming. Next slide, please. As Pat mentioned, through a lot of support from the Friends of Cape Cod National Seashore, we reopened the Red Maple Swamp Trail, and a little dedication ceremony for that back Memorial Day weekend. Next. And Nauset Light Beach, big changes. The trail is in place. That's being used by everybody, including, I think, every athletic team at Nauset High School is using it to train one way or another. It's a good hill. And it's being widely utilized every day. And that parking lot, because of its size, fills up usually by 10 o'clock every day through the summer. Next slide, please. We've got vault toilets that were put in over the winter, along with a trailer for the lifeguards. Those are temporary facilities that are going to be there this summer and next. Next slide, please. And we are at the final end of the design phase, and Silva, who's here with the Department of Public Works, helped contribute to that. We're going to be rebuilding a bathhouse complex that's very similar to what's up at Herring Cove. It's going to have the same sort of design features. That will be brand new and coming online, we expect, by Memorial Day for the summer season of 2021. So we're really proud that's getting ready to come online. That's a significant investment for the seashore. It will really be another attraction for the town of Eastham. Next. And the Penniman Barn, in complement to the Penniman House, is getting a similar treatment. And a lot of the housework was done through support of the Friends of Cape Cod National Seashore. That's currently in progress. There's a few things that need to be completed through this fall, but the paint and the roof is all complete. And we did a lot of shoring up of the structure as well. So both the house and the barn, as far as the exterior is concerned, look, nearly new. Next slide, please. And Coast Guard Beach. We're getting rid of the polka dotted Dalmatian look. That's not a good look. We realize this. We're going to be replacing a lot of the siding. The windows are getting treatment, fire escape, shutter repairs, and that's already started. None of the staging is taking place in the parking lot. It's all happening in the lawn area to the front. Next. So, if you have any questions, write them down. I'll be happy to answer them at the end. And that's what I've got for now. Next.
Please raise your hand and the board members will give you an index card if you have questions. Maggie Downey? Is Maggie Downey here? Again, we'll collect all of the index cards and questions throughout, and then at the end we'll collect them and hand them to the appropriate person.
Good morning. My job is to introduce Maggie Downey, Margaret Downey, the administrator and CEO of the Cape Light Compact. However, over the past 10 years, 2008 to 2010, the Compact's energy efficiency programs have saved ratepayers in kilowatt hours 8,695,000 kilowatt hours. When you convert that to dollars, it amounts to $357,000. Do you need an energy audit? A total of 9,225 Eastham residents and businesses has participated in some way with the Cape Light Cop energy programs in this 10-year period. The Cape Light Compact has reinvested $6.4 million in ratepayer funds during this time. Now, the secret to get this done is for you to participate in all this money is to have an energy audit of your home. And we'll be up back to service you to have an energy audit. With that, I would like to introduce Maggie Downey.
Thank you, Fred, and good morning. Fred Fenlon has been serving the town of Eastham as a representative on the board. Oh man, Fred, I think we go back almost 20 plus years. It's been a long time. He comes once a month, drives, and is very faithful to represent you and your interests. So I'm just going to be very brief. I know I'm standing between you and your Saturday afternoon. So just some background, as Fred said a lot, on Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard, the towns administer the ratepayer energy efficiency funds in lieu of the utility. This was done by a vote of town meeting. So everything we are talking about and all of the giveaways that we have are really things that we've already paid for. Every month on your electric bill, you pay a fee to run the energy efficiency programs. The Massachusetts legislature has ordered that we reduce, rather than building new plants, that we lower the cheapest electricity kilowatt hour is the kilowatt hour you don't use. So our goal is to reduce your kilowatt hour consumption through a variety of energy efficiency programs. I'm going to just highlight a few and then I can talk if you have questions. I think Fred already mentioned your home energy assessment. You are eligible every 12 months. So if you haven't had one, you pay for these. It's a great way to find out, one, if your home can use any improvements. We provide incentives for insulation, free air sealing, as well as incentives for switching your heating or cooling systems. Eastham is a split town. Natural gas only goes so far. So we have a lot of oil, propane, electric resistance heat. There are more efficient options for heating and cooling your home I'd be happy to talk about. If anybody has a second or an old refrigerator or freezer in your home, they're usually dogs. They use a lot of electricity. Right now, you can call the Cape Light Compact. We will come remove and recycle the refrigerator for no cost and give you a $50 rebate for taking that out of circulation. We also partner with several appliance stores for dehumidifier turn-in events. So you get to bring your old dehumidifier. Again, if it's been in your house and it doesn't have an Energy Star logo, it's what's contributing to your high electric bills. So bring them. They're listed on our website. There are 3 this month: Hyannis, Yarmouth, and a farmer's market. So we will be there. Again, if you bring it, we will take it out of circulation, we recycle it, and you'll get a $30 rebate. So there's lots of programs, but I think the most important thing I wanted to say is they're your programs. They only work if you invest and communicate with us over what you want to see. We heard a lot. I had a few questions about solar. That's something that the compact proposed to the Department of Public Utilities about using some of these funds to enhance what they call strategic electrification, moving customers off of oil and propane and baseboard electric resistance heat to cold climate heat pumps coupled with solar and a battery for resilience. Unfortunately, the Department of Public Utilities did not approve that. They said that we didn't do enough stakeholder engagement. So I will be out talking to customers, trying to get your feedback. And again, all of these programs you pay for. So that's why it's critical for me to hear from you as to whether or not you like it. Someone just sent me a question about the natural gas moratorium. I don't have a date. That's best for National Grid to answer that, but I know they've made significant progress on that issue. But I shouldn't say anything because I would have a 90% chance of getting it wrong. But that's so sorry about that.
It's off.
Oh, just say it's off.
They're definitely installing natural gas now. We've had maybe 6 to 10 trench permits a day coming in, so it's fast and furious. If you're interested, definitely give them a call. And you can also, I just did it for my house, you can go on their website and fill out a form and they'll contact you.
Can I steal the one?
Oh, sure.
Hi, everybody. I know you're dying in here.
Hold it up.
And I'm the secretary, and you know what? I know nothing. But I did just fix the air conditioner. So it's on. Just hang in there. It should cool off very shortly. All right? Enjoy. Thank you.
So thank you, I think you're going to at the end, right? So thank you very much, and I'll be in the back if you have any questions for me.
Good morning. We'll try and move quickly. I just got a question based on, could I follow up on some of the topics that I talked about last year, and I definitely will. I followed my notes from last year, so hopefully I will. If I don't, just ask a question to remind me. This morning I want to start by introducing our new DPW superintendent, Silvio Janau. Silvio comes to us with a lot of experience in several other towns, the latest of which is Plymouth. He's been with us, I think, about 8 months now. It seems like forever. It's been a seamless transition. He's my new right arm, and I'm very, very, very happy to introduce him to you this morning. And he's going to update you on beach maintenance, pavement, which I know is always a big issue, and drainage. Okay? Silvio. You got to come to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They won't let you sit there.
I know. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name, as Jackie mentioned, is Silvio Janau. I'm your new DPW superintendent. As Jackie also said, I've been here about 8 months, and I couldn't be happier to be here. This is a great community to be in, full of great people. As you can attest here, you guys are all showing up and being engaged in what we're trying to do, and that engagement is exactly what we need to move things forward. So one of the things that I noticed when I first got here was the status of the beaches and ponds. From my understanding, there was a plan before. For some reason, it never got off the ground, but as the superintendent, as the superintendent of the Park Service mentioned, that's what we come here for. That's what we live here. That's what we all enjoy. So one of the first things I did is in conjunction with the Recreation Department and the Natural Resources Department, we developed a beaches and ponds maintenance plan. If you go to the beaches now, you will see there's some cleanup going on. You go to the ponds, you'll see the parking lots have been repaired and things of that nature. So that is our first foray into maintaining our most important assets. The next thing is going to be our roads and drainage. I think everybody agrees, and most people who live on private roads as well, agree that there's some work to be done there. There's deterioration because of the roads themselves and the traffic that they get, but there's also some deteriorations based on the water project. So as of right now, the policy of the town has been to kind of put back what was there before, but what we're finding out on a technical level is that just like everything else in Eastham, we're a small community, we're used to a way of life, and now all of a sudden the new technologies and the new things are catching up with us. So we're finding out that most of these roads, they're just paper thin. They don't have a lot of asphalt, they don't have a lot of base. So it's becoming a problem because some of these roads will need to be reconstructed, and the town only has so much money to do that. So my approach to that is going to be a phased approach, and in the fall, we're going to be presenting to the Board of Selectmen a 5-year capital plan, which we're going to start prioritizing these roads based on the specific repair that they need, and the amount of traffic that they get, and a variety of angles that are important to us. So that's the first thing. Second thing, and I've already gotten the questions about this, so this is great, is sidewalks. There's sidewalks on Route 6 and not on many of our town roads. So one of the things that the town did was become part of the Complete Streets program. And what is that? Complete Streets is a strategy that the state is using to make sure that not only we pave roads, but we take into account multimodal modes of transportation, meaning bikes, pedestrians, ADA compliance, and things of that nature. So what we'll be doing is we are a part now of what they call the Tier 3, which is after you submit your prioritization plan of which roads you want to add sidewalks and bike and pedestrian facilities, now you can start putting in for reimbursement requests and funding to get these programs going. So as you can see on the roads and drainage front, there's a lot of stuff going on. But we do have the funding, and we're working on the funding, and we will be phasing these projects out. What else? Let's see. Oh, signs. Street name signs. That's another important thing. So we created an internal group with the fire chief, chief of police, the building inspector, and myself, because we've noticed for years there's a lot of you putting up signs for street names that are actually very cool. I mean, you've gotten very creative. I like them myself. So, but the problem is we've had a couple of close calls where police and fire can't respond because in the middle of the night, you don't know where these roads are. You don't know what the number of the house is, so all of a sudden they're using GPS and doing all these things that actually take time from response. So we have about $20,000 right now that we're gonna put into creating new street name signs, both for public ways and private ways. We do not wanna, in this particular case, under the auspice of public safety, we don't wanna separate. You all pay taxes here, you all deserve good services, and we're gonna provide that for you. We had an issue in Wellfleet, was it, next door? In Lieutenant Island, where unfortunately a couple of people passed away because public safety officers couldn't get to them on time. We don't want that to happen here. So we're being proactive on that regard. All right. Well, thank you very much.
And Sylvia will be around if you have more questions. Next, I'd like to introduce the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Amy Ekman. You know Amy from past years, but she's back, and she's the new chairman this year for the board. And she's going to go over a couple of topics with you, and then I'll fill you in on all the other updates and answer the questions that we've gotten so far. Yeah, sure.
Good morning, everyone. Is it getting cool back there? Because it's not reached up here. We're getting there. First thing, thank you all for being taxpayers in Eastham. We owe our great schools and great services we provide to everyone who pays taxes, and especially those of you who aren't here in the winter to benefit from a lot of those, so thank you. Couple things that passed this year at town meeting that are probably of interest to a lot of you. One is the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. And what that allows for is, by right, you can create an apartment, an accessory apartment in your home, or I guess detached from it, above a garage, those sorts of things. There is, I don't want to call it a catch, but you can't increase the number of bedrooms on your property. That's one of the conditions. So if you want to divide up your house to put, say, an apartment upstairs where you may have 2 bedrooms up there, you can put in a kitchen and then rent that as an accessory dwelling unit. It has to be a year-round rental. You can't use this as a seasonal money-making rental. But if you normally rent out your main house as a seasonal rental, you can continue to do that. But one of the units has to be year-round. So you have to, create a year-round rental is the whole idea. Eastham passed this in May, and I think we're the first town in the Cape to allow part-time residents to do it also. Other towns require that you're here year-round. And so I think this would be a really great thing. A lot of people I know would love to have someone over their garage, maybe in an apartment, year-round, keeping an eye on their place and a presence in town. And it would be a great thing to create some more year-round rentals in town. Tea time. I think everyone remembers a couple of years ago we had a developer come in, wanted to create 130 units of affordable housing on that parcel, and a lot of us were really uncomfortable with that volume of people on one parcel of land on Route 6. And some of us sort of created a citizens working group. I wasn't on the Board of Selectmen at the time, but we sort of tried to work with the developer to scale it back. And eventually the town also joined in on that, to asking them to scale it back. They did, but it was basically 2 buildings that looked like barracks. that they came up with, and so our zoning board rejected it. We then went into mediation, and finally our very clever and creative town administrator met with them and said, will you just sell it to us and let us handle putting something on there that we want to see in town? And they agreed. So we purchased it for 1.6 million at town meeting this year. And we don't close until September. And after that, we'll form a group of, citizens, and you're welcome to throw your name in the hat for that too. Jackie's keeping a list of everyone who's interested in having input on that. And I think it would be a really good thing to get as many different ideas as we can for what to do with that piece of property. Money well spent. So I'm going to answer some of the other questions that already came in, because there's probably more coming in as I'm talking here. So the question is, why does the town continue to require renourishment of revetments, since the sand simply goes south, requiring expensive dredging at Rock Harbor? Well, it's more a question for conservation, but in a nutshell, if you didn't have that revetment there, it would be taking sand from the bluff. And so if you remove all the sand from the system, you're going to really create some problems. You're going to have higher wave action. It'll undermine your revetment faster. There's a lot of reasons to renourish that sand. And yes, a lot of it does go down to Rock Harbor, but it goes even further south, down into Orleans and Brewster also. So it's a natural process. The sand moving, a revetment stops that natural process, so you need to keep up on the sand. But contact the conservation office next to the DPW, and they can technically tell you exactly why you need to do it. Next question is summer boat storage. As a part-time resident and a senior, it is most difficult to be here on the exact date when storage permits are issued. Can some priority be given to Eastham taxpayers and seniors so mail-in can be permitted? Well, I have to say, I was one of the people out there on April 16th. I got there at 7:15 thinking, no problem. Well, I went and bought donuts first. That was probably my first mistake. So I was 20th in line at 7:15. The office didn't open till 8. By the time it opened at 8, the line was all the way back, I think, over toward the sticker office.
Wow.
And it sold out shortly after I got mine. Definitely at Great Pond and some of the more popular ones. I think we definitely need to revamp the whole system. As far as doing mail-in, I think we'd have the same problem. Everybody who mailed in would get them, and then no one else would. So we're trying to come up with something, maybe have an event at the library, and it'll become a lottery, because there are only so many available, and we're doing the best we can, but every year it's less and less time before they sell out. So we're putting more racks at some of the landings and beaches so that people can get more boats there, but we can only put so many there at one time. Let's see, what's this one? What is this status of the marijuana store on Route 6? So the planning board on June 20-something just approved, or June 19th, because I just watched it. It's about 4 hours long if you want some. It's some good entertainment, though, I have to say. I wasn't here for the meeting, so I just watched it recently. So there's 2 applicants for recreational marijuana establishments. One where the Cape Cod Dog currently is, and their permit was approved on June 19th, and one on Brackett Road, just east of Holmes Road. There's a little gallery in there, a bike shop, and some other things. So those are the 2 places, and they have been approved. I think state licensing is still sort of slow right now, because they've been overwhelmed with applications. Provincetown has 11 applicants. Wellesley has 6. I think Provincetown is doing it pretty smartly. They're requiring them to be year-round businesses, and as I kind of joke, that'll weed out the riffraff. So I don't think 11 of them will make it.
No.
So, and Wellfleet's sort of scrambling as to where to put them. I think we were smart a year and a half ago. We passed zoning as to where they would be allowed and how, and limited to 2. I mean, other towns didn't necessarily limit, and I think they're really suffering for it. So, there was a follow-up on this. How do the police plan to handle issues caused by impaired drivers? And they say, look at what's going on in Colorado. I know they are, and Colorado's sort of leading this, developing sort of new ways to tell if people are under the influence. But I think field sobriety tests are probably one of the biggest things that police can use, because even with alcohol, people can refuse to do the blood alcohol test. And then the police have to rely on field sobriety tests. And I think if, someone is impaired to that level, they're gonna fail a field sobriety test, whether or not they test positive for anything. So I know our police chief, I wish he were here to talk about it a little bit more, but he's definitely up on the issue. What is the expected impact on property values with the increase in affordable housing units and marijuana retail stores? Has this been evaluated? As far as the impact on housing values, no. You don't know. You don't know until things are built and in. But I can tell you they will increase our tax base. So all these housing units, that whole development, will pay taxes. What's the estimated?
About $60,000.
$60,000 a year. The marijuana, we really don't know. I think one of the retailers estimated they alone would pay $50,000 a year in just the sales tax. And so we also have a growing facility that's been approved, so all that revenue will come back to the town. It's hard to say whether they'll affect property values, but at least they won't impact your taxes. They will help lower your taxes. And here's the old taxation without representation question. Voting rights. What has to happen so part-time taxpayer residents have a say in local policies and expenditures? Well, in lieu of moving here, which you're all welcome to do, we'd love to have you, get involved. All our meetings are online, on demand, or live. You can stream them live. Call in. We haven't had anybody do that yet, but maybe we could set something up where people could actually call in and participate in a Board of Selectmen meeting. Write letters. If you watch meetings and give input, you'd be doing more than probably 75% of the people in town do that live here. Because we get maybe we get usually less than 10% at town meetings as a rule, unless there's something really controversial. So it's such a small number of people voting anyway. I think just having input when we have meetings, when we're going over the budget, watch those meetings. If you see something, point it out to us. We try to respond to letters. People email me all the time. I try to get back to them as soon as I can. We want to hear from you. We want to know what your concerns are. But as far as voting, it's a state law, and you can only vote one place. But again, you're more than welcome to move here. We'd love to have you. So I think that's all I have. And so now Jackie's going to give her spiel and answer about, 50 questions.
And just to follow up on what Amy said, as town administrator, I can assure you that the selectmen are very sensitive to emails, phone calls, letters. They receive very few of them, comparatively speaking. So if you're for or against something, send them an email. They will listen to you. They're not at all, we put everything that comes in their packet. So if you write to them, if you email them, I will put it in their info packet and they will all see it. So I'm gonna try and do a speed summary of where we are. And I'm gonna start with the water project. Even though it seems slower right now, we are moving right along. Phase 1 of the water project, as you know, was on time and under budget by about $3.6 million. Right now, we are about 90% complete with phase 2A, which is the first phase of the second. And that is under budget by about $3 million, continuing that trend. What we're doing differently going forward with phase 2, however, is that we're trying to incorporate some pavement management into the contracts as we go. In other words, we're now taking some of the cost savings that we're having with the water main contracts, and we're putting that into pavement. So it'll give Silvio some more tools to work on as we go. So that's why I know some people are saying, why are some roads totally repaved now and others aren't? We're going to go back over those phase 1 roads, but for right now, as we move forward, we're going to maximize any dollars we have. So if we can put an inch of pavement over a whole road instead of 4 inches on a trench, that's what we're going to do. So you'll notice some roads like Shirtlift that are totally repaved, and that's why. The other thing we did in phase 2A is, since we had some money that was remaining in the loan, we repackaged and issued another contract under phase 2A. So we took 8 roads that needed water or were interested in hooking up to public water because of water quality issues, either saline intrusion or nitrates or other issues. And we packaged them into a new contract and went out to bid and did that. So we are now about 18 months to almost 2 years ahead of schedule because we're making some of those choices. Currently, we have installed 140,000 feet of water main and 260 fire hydrants. And overall, even with the changes that I mentioned and spending more money on roads, we're about $4.6 million under budget. The concern we have coming up is that 2B, phase 2B, our next phase, has an additional tower and an additional well. And all the permitting for that is done, but with steel prices rising, we are concerned about that second tower. And we need that tower as soon as we reach about 2,000 customers. So we'll put it off a little to hopefully make sure that the steel prices hopefully can come down, but if not, that may eat up some of our surplus that we have right now. We are now operating the public water system for approximately 1,000 customers. We have a full-time administrative clerk in that department now. Her name is Kim St. Aubin, and she's over at the new water office, which is adjacent to the sticker office at the DPW building. And Kim is available Monday through Friday during the day, 8 to 4. Her extension is 3244, and her email is waterclerk@eastham-ma.gov. So we're trying to keep it simple. She's really the first point of contact if you have any questions about hooking up. In terms of road resurfacing, I've gotten a lot of calls on Herringbrook Bridge and Samoset roads, and we know that those are top priorities, especially in the summer season. We didn't want to resurface for the summer season, but those will be top priorities for the fall contracts. So next year, they'll be beautiful for you. I'm sorry that we couldn't get it done for this year. In terms of the affordable housing update for the Purcell property, which is now called Nauset Green Village. Nauset Village Green?
Village at Nauset Green.
Village at Nauset Green. I'm so sorry, I keep getting confused. Those 65 units of housing are coming along very speedily. We will be doing the first lottery, the first 4 buildings, so 16 units in September. It's going to be phased in 4 buildings at a time, so that'll give construction a chance to keep progressing. It'll also give us a chance to integrate folks before, so that we don't have 200 people moving in on the same month, which would be more than a quorum for a town meeting, so that's not good. In terms of the adult use marijuana that Amy mentioned, the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board have now issued 3 permits. As she said, 2 for retail adult use and 1 for a cultivation facility that will be totally enclosed. So it's not an open air cultivation, it's totally in the building hydroponically. None of those establishments have gotten state permits yet. So we are not expecting that they will be open this summer. I know one of them hoped to be open in August, but I don't know if that's possible. So it is something that's coming. It probably won't be coming this summer. We also have negotiated in all of our host agreements with both of those establishments that they will only serve the public by appointment only. So there will not be the issues that some other towns that we've learned from have had where there's lines of cars going. So it'll be appointment only. There's a 3-stage process. You have to show ID. There's lots of security. They have to have their own security. Our police will be secure. So we've negotiated an agreement, and I can send one of those to your website so you can look at those if you want to. But they go through quite a lot. The town has a lot of ability to negotiate with them if there is noise or any kind of issues coming up, and especially the police department. Ed Kilhaywood, my chief, isn't here this morning, but if he was, he'd tell you that he is very concerned, and so are all the Massachusetts chiefs, that the state did approve these facilities coming on without determining what the legal limit to marijuana use in the bloodstream is. And that's a challenge for all of our chiefs. So they are working diligently to try and get that. It's a tricky drug because there is a delay in terms of the absorption in the body. So anyway, we're working on that, but that is a concern. I will not misrepresent that to you. The other thing I'd like to tell you is that the Seashore Park is federal, as you know, and marijuana is not legal on the federal level. So you cannot use marijuana products in the Seashore Park. There will be consequences to that, I assume, legal and otherwise. So the superintendent wanted me to remind you of that, and we're trying to let residents know about that. We're hoping that the retail establishments, once they're open and the hoopla is over, as Amy said, you know, I think that limited amounts of them are going to make it in a year-round business climate, and some of them will just fail. But we're hoping that they'll start to blend in with other businesses and be like a liquor store, and you won't notice the impact, but it's yet to be seen, as all new things carry risk. In terms of the shark safety, we have had a lot of concerns about the signs and how large they are and how scary they are. And I understand that, and I am looking at that for the rest of the season. I should have thought, small landings, maybe we need smaller signs. So we will be looking at a smaller version of it, but I won't take them away. I think we've all agreed that we need to have them, and we need to be warning the public, and so they will continue to be present, but I will look at a smaller sign for some of the smaller landings and beaches. I understand the concern there. In terms of what the town is doing, in addition to some of the seashore, in their enactment of safety issues, we did a cell survey of all the beaches and learned, as we kind of intuitively knew, that the ocean side where the seashore is, we have no signal on the beach in a lot of places. And there's also a weakness over on South Sunken Meadow Beach. Usually the cell signal is at 2, but sometimes it drops to 1 down there. So we were looking at how do we make the beaches safer overall? What can we do for this season? And we chose to do radio repeaters. So on the ocean side, in addition to the call boxes, we've installed radio repeaters, which will help all the first responders be able to communicate from the beach to the police station, to dispatch, to other emergency vehicles. We're also going to be doing one of those call boxes at South Sunken Meadow. Sorry, it's not there yet, but it will be. The chief, my fire chief, has been in contact with the firm that's doing them all over the Cape, and of course it was very busy this season with lots of people installing them, but we will have it installed hopefully by the end of July. There will be Stop the Bleed kits at every at every beach shack that's selling stickers in the parking lots. We also have them in all the town vehicles. So if you want a Stop the Bleed kit too, you can buy it on Amazon. They actually sell them now. They're roughly $120 a piece, but we have many of them. And we're also doing Stop the Bleed training still during the season. We did a lot this spring. And I've had a lot of questions about lifeguards on the Bayside beaches. We've never had lifeguards on Bayside beaches. It is something that the selectmen looked at this year. It is very cost prohibitive, but more than that, it's trying to actually get college kids and teachers to stay into the season that it really counts to have lifeguards at the Bay beaches, which would be, again, August, September. And as we know from all of our other seasonal help, it's very difficult to keep people here. And believe it or not, it's not popular to be a lifeguard right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about beach stickers because it has been a big issue this year, and I'm not exactly sure why. But there are some questions. I need my cheat sheet. So beach stickers are available starting April 1st. We send a thing out with the tax bill, and it's online on our website, and you can download the application, make copies of your vehicle registrations, and get them by mail. And we recommend that. So that is open now and through the rest of the season, but definitely between April 1st and July 1st, you can get your beach sticker by mail. A lot of people are waiting in line for a long period of time, and I'm sorry about that, but I do encourage you, if you have the opportunity, get your beach stickers early. I have some questions about the definition of an owner as it relates to a property held in trust. And we've gone around this year a lot, and I actually sent it to our town council earlier in the year because we were being told that we did not have the right definition. But basically, a taxpayer beach sticker, in order to get one, you have to be a registered voter, listed as a year-round resident on the census, listed as the property owner, the spouse of a listed property owner, the dependent of a listed property owner with the same year-round address, a trustee, listed as a trustee, active military or an employee of the town. And we need vehicle registrations to do that. We do allow one person, if you're a spouse of an owner or you're an owner and you don't want a sticker, you can transfer one sticker to an adult child, to someone else in your household, but you have to give up your sticker in order to do that. That's how we've done it since 2002. So really nothing's changed. I think different people have different trust arrangements, and maybe at some point we allowed you to switch in beneficiaries, but we're not issuing taxpayer stickers to beneficiaries, only to the owner. And honestly, I have a question about why are we discriminating because adult children can't get stickers that have grown up here. And I can tell you that our adult children can't get stickers either unless they own, not resident ones, unless they're a resident or they own property in the town. It's that simple. Otherwise, you have to get a seasonal sticker or some other type. So just a quick update on some capital projects. The police station roof went out to bid, and we're doing some renovations this fall. So the roof and renovations should be done. I think Sylvia will be talking about by January, I think. So that'll be a fast renovation. It was not a total reno. It was just some specific areas to bring it up to date. Rock Harbor improvements. I don't know if any of you have been down to Rock Harbor, but that also passed a town meeting last year. And all the docks and floats and gangways have been replaced. So we have beautiful new floats down there. That was step one. Shayna Brogan, my conservation administrator, has applied for a grant from Seacoast, a Seacoast grant, to the state of Massachusetts, basically to pay for the design and development and engineering for the Harbor Master Shack. So we're kind of delaying that project, hoping that we'll get $150,000 towards that project. So there's no rush, so we're waiting. We are continuing with the permitting to do a maintenance dredge of Rock Harbor every 10 years and to take a look at how we can make it more business friendly. So that, you know, we can have a more year-round vibrant harbor down there. We were also awarded a grant last year to do a harbor planning, a full harbor plan for not only Rock Harbor, but the estuary, Town Cove, and all town landings. And that is continuing in their second public forum for comments. And we really would appreciate your comments either in person or by email. Their second public meeting will be Thursday, July 25th at 4 at the library. One second. I don't know what's going on.
The cool air's getting here.
The cool air must be getting to me. In terms of wastewater, I don't have any huge updates. We are doing remediation for schoolhouse and ministers' ponds this summer. I call it sort of the fish tank experiment. We're aerating it and we're doing all kinds of things to it, but hopefully it will clear up those ponds. It did work on the other side, so we're hoping it will. We're in the process of permitting for these permeable reactive barriers around Salt Pond, and the Seashore is working with us on that. Hopefully we'll have that pilot project sometime this year. And basically this phase of our wastewater project will be designing and evaluating a small sewer system, a more traditional system. In order to get a comprehensive plan approved, we have to have traditional and non-traditional methods. So far we've been concentrating on the non-traditional, so this will be our catch-up, and then we will be able to get SRF funds and other funds that will pay for the wastewater. In addition, really good news, I updated our grant profile, and we've received over $3.5 million in the past 2 years in grants for the town of Eastham. And I have to thank my staff for this because they are out there relentlessly looking, and that's a lot of money for a small town. And it really matters when we have capital projects going forward, and I think it's one of the reasons why we can keep our capital projects under budget is because even though, for instance, Rock Harbor has been approved as a project, I still have an employee who's applied for 2 grants to help defray those costs so that we can return some money to you at the end of it. This year we've received grants for loan forgiveness for the water project, which is kind of huge. 4 new firefighters, the Harbor and Coastal Resiliency Grants, the USDA grants for culvert replacement and drainage, fire, police, and equipment, and many other small grants, and every penny counts, as you know. The other thing I talked about last year and is coming to fruition is the development of a town-wide strategic plan. And Strategic Planning Committee has been working on this for a year and a half now. They've had several public meetings. They did a survey. I thank all of you who may have contributed to the survey. And they will be basically meeting with the Board of Selectmen in August, as one of their meetings in August, to sort of unveil what the community is saying is important to them. And it'll be up to the selectmen at that point to accept the plan and move on. But we're hoping as staff that it will give us additional tools as we evaluate sort of what's necessary and what's not going forward. It'll be a blueprint for us to evaluate what are the issues that are more important to you all, not just to us. So I just want to, there's four sort of areas that they've been honing in on. One is support for a clean environment and a resilient community. And and I think that means coastal resiliency as well as vibrancy. Support for intentional and well-designed development. And I think that is, we have heard that loud and clear over the past few years, that we want to maintain our rural character as we develop. Increase diversity of residents and strengthen our community. And, you know, we're noticing more transient residents. We want to strengthen the community as much as possible, residents and part-time residents, and keep Eastham Eastham. And improve safety on all modes of transportation and all of our roads. And to that end, Sylvia will be working with the DOT this year. He and Paul Lag. We are now the DOT has decided that Route 6 is an issue for them. So this is such an exciting moment. You know, it might be another tea time, right? You know, when our priorities line up with the DOT's, that's when the stars are aligned and we can move forward and do something. So hopefully this is the year. So coming up will be the complete transportation study of Route 6 and working with the DOT on ways to improve safety and drivability. The planning board is discussing an anti-blight bylaw. We've had issues with different properties, not a lot, but a few over the years, and I think the selectmen and the planning board are going to start to discuss what can we actually do about some of these properties that just sit there and are undeveloped and uncared for. As Silvio mentioned, the means to address the private road maintenance problems, pavement drainage and signage. We've had a lot of issues with private roads because they're aging now. A lot of our subdivisions are 30 years old, and that's when things start to fall apart in terms of pavement. So we need to work with you to develop some plan with private road owners. He mentioned complete streets, and then he will be bringing the five-year road and stormwater plan and the 10-year capital plan to the Board of Selectmen this fall. So we have a lot going on. We have a lot of obvious challenges between development and the environment that we're grappling with, and hopefully we're grappling with them very thoughtfully. We know your taxes are rising due to water and other projects, and we're trying to contain that as much as possible, but we also don't want to let our buildings and facilities go. So to that end, the Board of Selectmen, I know there's a question about how much money are we expected to get from the rental tax and what are we going to do with that. The Board of Selectmen has very intentionally decided not to use that for the operating budget. So it won't go into increasing staff or programs or services in particular. What we're looking for it to do is to increase our stabilization fund and to work on capital buildings and capital roads. So those are the three issues that we'll be using that extra revenue for. We have been receiving meals tax. Meals tax has been about $130,000 or so a year, and that's been for the past 2 years, that's been going directly into the stabilization fund. So we're going to do the same thing with any extra revenue we have. There have been enormous projections about how much. We're ignoring those projections for now, and we're waiting to see what happens, because we're not going to dedicate it to anything other than a savings account for capital and for our stabilization funds. We're not particularly concerned about it. So when we start to get the revenue, it'll be certified as free cash, probably for the first year, and it will then be available to spend the next year or to dedicate to a fund. So that's the most I can give you. We've had all kinds of revenue estimates. I don't know what the reality is. Right now, we know we have over 2,000 properties that are being rented in a short-term way, and that should give us $750,000 in extra revenue a year. Whether that comes to fruition, we don't know. Marijuana revenue is very variable at this point. We've had all kinds of projections, but I don't expect anything probably this year at all. So that's that update. And I've talked to a lot of very, very, very stressed out people this year. And I want to just close before we start answering questions, just saying that I think that we all need to take a breath and drive slower and be safe and be careful and be mindful, because I am concerned about the level of tension and stress that everybody seems to be under this year more than other years. I've noticed it. So please take good care. Do something fun. I know you guys all have second homes, and that's a huge burden, I think. I really do. I can't imagine keeping up with 2 homes, 2 yards, all of that goes with that. But do something fun for yourself over the weekend, too. All right, let's go to some questions. Brian, do you want to answer some questions first? Do you have any? Sylvia.
Thank you very much. As Jackie mentioned, we're going to try to have some fun, but instead I'm going to talk for as long as I can to prevent that. No, seriously. I'm going to start with one of my favorite topics since I started working in Eastham. The first question is traffic safety. No left turns off any roads turning onto Route 6 in summer. Any chance? Unless there's a traffic light. So this is a fascinating question, because when I first started here, the first thing my assistant superintendent told me was, in the summertime, to go left, you must turn right. And I did not understand what that meant until a couple of weeks ago. So I've been well educated into this situation. As Jackie mentioned too, one of the things we're doing is we're trying to approach things in the short term and in the long term, because things that we see that are an issue will not go away unless we start picking at it slowly. So in the short term, what I can tell you is, unfortunately, Route 6 is under the jurisdiction of the state police and Mass DOT. Even changing a sign there, we have to contact them and ask them to come down. Sometimes it takes them a while, but perhaps that's something that we can bring to their attention and say, is there any traffic rerouting that we could do? As you mentioned too, the problem is in town we only have 4 traffic lights at the southern end and northern end of Nauset Road and bracketed Samoset. So I don't know if any of you have driven in New Jersey, but that's something that they very creatively dealt with, where you actually turn right, go out and around, go to a light so you can make a left. We would love to do that here, but we only have 4 intersections with traffic lights, so that's not something that we could do that, but we certainly have looked at it. In the long term, we've already engaged with the Cape Cod Commission and Mass DOT to do a whole revamp of Route 6. It all started with the Cape Cod Commission looking at the northern section of town because of the changes in zoning there, and then Mass DOT was doing their own project all the way to P-Town. And it seems that they weren't talking to each other. So in the benefit of our interest, of our residents, we say, hey guys, you're doubling your efforts here. Let's all get together and figure out a solution. So that's moving forward right now, and the state is prioritizing looking at Route 6 from every aspect. Because again, it's a road that hasn't been touched in 40 years and needs major changes for safety to accommodate a variety of people, etc., etc. So that is Route 6. Town maintenance. When I went to buy my beach and dub sticker, I noticed a large vine growing out of the side of the building. Near the roof. I noticed it too. Town maintenance should remove this before it creates a problem to the metal building. Thank you very much for your interest in our buildings. We see those too. We've been working on it. It's very testy vine, doesn't want to go away. But we unfortunately can't use, we have an internal policy where we don't use chemicals, we don't use herbicides. So all we can do is continually trim it. But with all the rain that we got this spring, it just seems to be growing now, as you mentioned, underneath the metal siding. So we just keep hacking at it until we find the root, and hopefully we can get to it. But some people say it gives the building character. I said, I don't want to lose my building siding, so let's keep trimming it as much as we can. I got 2 questions about signs. One is, how can we purchase an official street name sign for a private road? And another one is, Millennium Lane, located between Massasoit and Campground Roads, does not have a street sign. So they would like us to add the street sign to our new list. Absolutely. We will totally do that. Excuse me, we'll totally do that. As I mentioned, some residents have been doing that, and unfortunately, the town doesn't have any jurisdiction over private ways. That's a big topic that, as Jackie mentioned, we will be addressing. I've worked in other municipalities where there's repair programs where we can assist residents on private roads, because most of them are 40, 50-year-old subdivisions. They're usually the worst roads in town, and the residents don't have a mechanism to fix it. So I think it's in our best interest to help private road owners fix their roads. Having said that, that's something that we right now can't do. We will be creating a policy internally and bringing it up to you for feedback. In the meantime, we will be addressing the signs. So some residents have called us and said, hey, what are the requirements for road signs? Can you tell me where you go? We've put them in contact with some of the vendors, but we want to stop that. So starting in the fall, hopefully you'll start seeing new street name signs. So if you call us, 508-240-5973, or emails at, it's the easiest email in the world, dpw@eastham-ma.gov. Start telling us that which roads don't have signs, start requesting signs, we'll put them on the list, just like this question, and we'll start banging them out slowly. Let's see, 2 more questions about sidewalks. So sidewalks in Brackett Road. To Old Orchard, please, at least more residents will be using it because of the new development. So one of the things I discussed before was complete streets. Old Orchard Road, we have what it's called a prioritization plan. I caught myself. A prioritization plan, which has created gathered 28 locations that have been prioritized by a different set of standards. And Brackett Road is actually on that list. It's our project 3 and 5. 3 is an extension of that sidewalk, and 5 is a sidewalk on the other side of the road. So we're definitely looking into that, and that will be coming soon. We have the same reservations with the new development coming in. And the other question is, we noted in the minutes that Sunset Road is a priority for the Complete Streets program. What about Massasoit Road? So often during the summer, Massasoit is apparently used to bypass congestion of Route 6, as well as many bicyclists, walkers, joggers, etc., occupying those travel lanes. Massasoit is also our prioritization plan for Complete Streets. So what we'll be looking into is, this is a fluid document. As we start doing projects, we will keep updating because the town is fluid too. Our needs change. So, but I wanted to let you know that we have noticed these locations, and we will start addressing them as soon as we can. Thank you very much for all your questions, and I have to say, I've worked in, if I may take 5 minutes of your time, I've worked in other Cape and Island communities where non-resident taxpayers are important too, but I've never seen this level of engagement. So this helps us out a lot. Getting feedback from the public is what helps us do our job. So I would like to tell you, you should give yourself a round of applause for being here. Thank you for helping us out.
I missed a couple of questions, and 2 of them involve the rental tax and how it's impacted activity this summer. I don't have any information on that other than anecdotal. I mean, we have the same amount of people that are renting units. What the income or the availability of those units are, I don't know. Maybe Mr. Sheldon can help out with that one. I think we'll probably have to go through a full season to see it, right? I do know, though, that that the beaches have been incredibly busy. So I don't know whether it's the weather or whatever, but we have seen no decrease in any activity at any of the beaches. So if that gives any indication, it looks like a normal summer to us. And the other question is, what is the town doing to encourage broader diversity in the town? And this is a conundrum for us. I mean, we know that the Cape is ahead of the state of Massachusetts in its aging population, but Massachusetts is also aging. We're losing our families and children. People aren't having as many children. So it's becoming an issue for us. But in terms of that, the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen are looking at it as a goal to try and figure out what can we do to keep families here in Eastham and to provide not only jobs, but housing and services that families need to survive here. So we are looking at that this year. It's something that's a vision that I have around a community center with some wraparound services, and we're hoping to be able to actualize that for not a huge amount of money. So I think money, time, and a lot of thoughtfulness will need to go into that in order to make any impact at all. And I don't, do we have more?
I think, yeah, Brian was gonna go, and I have a few more.
Okay.
Thank you, Jackie. I have about 9 questions from you. I'd be happy to respond. First one was, could the park superintendent please put his PowerPoint slides on the public website? Yeah, one way or another we'll put that up for you, then you can link to it from EPRTA as well. Is the trail at Nauset Beach handicap accessible? No, it's not. There were stairs there previously, but Coast Guard Beach and Herring Cove Beach currently are. Explain initiatives to extend Cape Cod Rail Trail to P-Town. Ask Wellfleet. They're working currently with the state who manages the rail trail through Nickerson State Park to do an extension of it. And we work very closely with them through our park planner, Lauren McKean, on a regional trails plan, and we will continue to do so. So that is a long-term goal. Someday maybe we'll see it extended that far, but the next extension is being worked on through Wellfleet right now. Will East Ham continue to have parking spaces at Coast Guard and Nauset Light beaches? Absolutely, yes. Now, follow on that. There seems to be a loss of resident parking spaces at Coast Guard Beach. Why? Seems to be is the way to answer this one. We do have signage on each of the spaces that's very specific. Just pay attention to it. There is a lot of resident parking available, but there are times when it's not available to residents to allow for Park Service programming. So there is parking available there. Jackie and I talk about this several times a year, it seems, and we know it's a big deal for all the residents of East Ham, yourselves and others included, and we'll continue to work on that and adjust as we can. Now, we do know at Nauset Light Beach that that outer row of parking is going to continue to erode away. And that's going to become a bigger and bigger issue. As we get further into transportation planning, we're going to have to consider some different alternatives that are long-term. Exactly what those are going to look like? Not sure. So here's an excellent question. How has the marine mammal legislation changed your job? It hasn't. It's been in place since 1972. I was only 6 years old when that passed. It falls under the jurisdiction of NOAA Marine Fisheries. They are the ones that are responsibly in charge of the Marine Mammal Protection Act. As a federal employee with the National Park Service, we will work closely with them, but they're the ones that actually have the jurisdictional authority, and we conform with their regulation. So, Marine Mammal Protection Act has been around since 1972, and from a conservation perspective, it's been successful. Is anything being done to reduce the seal population? There are 500,000 animals that are gray seals in the northeast Atlantic Ocean. Our primary colony areas, Sable Island out off of the Maritimes in Canada. That's 500,000 animals. There's about 20 to 50,000 on the Cape, depending on which science you want to look at. Any kind of removal of the animals from that bigger meta population is quickly going to be filled in by those other animals. It's a habitat niche that they're currently occupying with that many seals and the overall population. Removal of a small segment of that, they're just going to be back in a very short time frame anyway. It's tough, I realize that. But here's another way to look at it. Cape Cod National Seashore is a wild marine environment and that nearshore environment. There aren't too many places in the world where you can actually see seals being preyed upon by great white sharks, or to see a great white shark from the shore. It's very rare to be able to see that. And, people are laughing about that, but that's a fact. That's a very unique wildlife observation opportunity. How many people pay dollars to go just to see a grizzly bear at Yellowstone? Many. You can now see that same level of trophic interaction happening in a natural ecosystem right here at Cape Cod. It was written about in a paper last week, so trust me. Is there a way to install a shark barrier? There's a way to do anything if you want to put enough money towards it. Do I want to do that as a superintendent of a national seashore, to install an unproven technology in a dynamic nearshore environment that includes shores, a shoreline that is shifting sandbars and ever-changing trough systems? You probably don't want me spending $20 million to do that. And that's the kind of an estimate we have to deploy something that would provide that sort of technology. Now, it is part of the mitigation study that's being done by the Woods Hole Group to look at that a little bit closer. I don't know if that's going to be possible. But I want to be as responsible as possible, and the town manager and I have been talking about this since last October, with your tax dollars as we possibly can be. And I don't have enough information to say that's the smartest thing to do yet. I'm not sure if we ever will. Could it be done? Yes. Would it be effective? I have a lot of doubts about that. We don't have any scientific information that I'm required to base my decisions on for implementing action in the seashore to do that yet. But we're looking into it. Here's an excellent question, and I'm really hopeful about this one, but we'll see what happens. And this is, the U.S. government recently announced that 50% of the energy production, oil, etc., tax dollars will be given to the National Park Service. That's an estimate of about $12 billion. This is all part of the question. I'm not answering it yet. Do you anticipate large influx of funds, and what plans do you have should this happen? And this one's signed by Al Harrison. Al, if you're still here, thank you for that question. And let me touch on what this is about. Last Congress, the Restore America's Parks Act was introduced in both the House and the Senate. It started making way through committee. It made it out of the House, didn't make it through the Senate, but it was reintroduced in February of this year and is working its way through both houses of Congress, and we'll see what happens. It's rare that we have anything that has bilateral support. And if it does happen to make its way through, the Park Service is working very hard with our facility management programs, with our planners, to make sure we're readily prepared to spend those dollars. And if that doesn't go through, we're fairly confident within this administration there will be some level of funds that are going to go forward to help alleviate our very large $12+ billion Park Service maintenance backlog. So that's what we're working on. It's deferred maintenance. It's a complicated issue for us, but it's something that we're working very hard to address. So thank you for that question, Al. I didn't mention it previously. I used to work in legislative affairs, so I track this stuff. Anyway, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here before you, and I really appreciate your interest in the National Seashore. And being here for this meeting today really helps me to do my job better, to understand what your interests and desires are for the National Seashore, because it is a backbone and a huge reason why all of us are here. Thank you.
All right, a couple final questions here. How will unused funds from the water project be allocated? If we have money left at the end, or I should say if we're under budget at the end, it's just money we don't borrow. So you won't be assessed for the total estimated cost of the water system, only what is actually spent. So if we come in under budget, at the end of everything, you just get charged less. So that's pretty simple. Are we going to ban styrofoam and single-use plastic, straws, spoons, lids, in favor of biodegradable materials? So, I should have mentioned that before, at town meeting, there were two petition bylaws, or two petition articles that came up that did pass overwhelmingly at town meeting to ban all those things. Unfortunately, petition articles don't have any teeth. You can't enforce something like that with those. But at the same time, the town is also developing our own bylaw. Someone from the Conservation Commission came to us in, I think, February with a great bylaw banning these things. And having incentives for businesses so it doesn't cost them extra. It's really great by law. Unfortunately, it was a little too late to get on the town meeting warrant in May. We plan to have it ready for next May. We'll have it ready this fall, I think, to go on the warrant, and then that will be implemented next year. Let's see. This one says you did not answer the question. What will the impact of our housing be for resale? We don't know. That's my answer. We have no idea of knowing. But, you know, some people they seem put off by the affordable housing as if it's a, you know, housing project. It's not. It's affordable housing. There's market rate units in there. There are, let's see, it starts at 30% of area median income. There's several units, maybe 10 or 15 units.
Started $900.
Right. It's not, it's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. We have a lot of teachers that live off Cape that can't afford to live here. They drive. You know, it actually makes your services cost more in town. They have to pay people more to travel here, to work here. If you're here in the winter at all and you drive on Route 6 any weekday morning going toward Hyannis, it's backed up coming this way in January. You know, it's not summer traffic. It's people working up here because they don't live up here. And we're just trying to create, you know, something where people can live and work in this community simultaneously. They're already working here. They're just not living here yet. We just don't have the inventory of rentals and affordable units. And then they say I just spoke about tax dollars and getting a tax decrease. We don't know yet. So, and then this one, why did the planning board, in regards to the pot shops, postpone the meeting after sending notices to abutters? I don't know if anyone's ever watched planning board meetings or not, but continuation of meetings is extremely common. Either the attorneys for the applicants aren't ready, or they may not have the right amount of people sitting on the board. They need a certain form of people that have been in attendance or will be in attendance going forward because they need a high quantum of vote for these sorts of things. So that's one reason for continuation. So the abutters just kind of have to keep track of, you know, if something is postponed to go to the next time. And then it also says they announced their decision before asking the 50 folks who were present the second time for their concerns. And it says fake board meeting. Well, I watched it. It wasn't a fake board meeting. They had public comment. Several people did get up and talk. You know, everybody has a chance at a public hearing to speak. That is one of the requirements of a public hearing. And I did watch it. Several people did speak, and so I'm not sure where they're getting that from. And then they said they failed to address the expected stench of skunk from the grow facility. And now they did address that. There is going to be some technology used as filtration so that the smell does not come out. So I think they really did address it, and it's in their conditions that if it does produce stink, they'll probably shut them down. You know, they will hold them to that it is going to produce smell. So I think there are protections there for that. And that's all I have. All right, anybody else has questions? All right.
Thank you so much to all the speakers who came out today. The information that you provided was invaluable. And thank you for all of you for coming. I hope that you all have a great summer and that you return for our August meeting. And at this point, I think we can adjourn the meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you again. Please visit the booths. There are some take-homes for you, and there's probably still refreshments.